Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing Saraya. So I'm looking at the band Saraya, the female-fronted hard rock band from the late 80s, early 90s, who put out two albums and then pretty much disappeared. So now this is an interesting one because I don't think I've ever done this before, but I had someone who subscribes to my channel request that I do this episode, and I've been saying, yes, I will do it. I will get around to it at some point, but I've sort of been saying that for a while. So um, our our do the Swell Productions 4189. Your wish has come true, and I am now going to do that episode that I've been promising to do. So, and I'm more than happy to do it because I am a fan of the band. Saraya put out two really good albums, like I say, late 80s and early 90s. Female fronted. I've talked about female fronted hard rock metal bands quite a bit on my channel. So, yeah, happy to talk about this band. Of course, I've mentioned it from time to time, but never sort of done a full episode on them. So basically, what I thought I'd do is I'll just review their two albums and just give you some information. Now, I was a little bit hesitant because I know other channels have talked about Saraya and done episodes on them, and I feel like they covered it really well. Bring Back Rock. Dean did a really good job of summarizing their career and giving information and so forth like that. But so if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. But I guess what's going to be a little bit different with my channel is it's my opinion. So I'll give you some of my opinions on the songs on the albums that they put out. So the band's called Saraya. It's named, I guess, after the lead vocalist, Sandy Saraya. The band was formed by Sandy and Greg Minea, the keyboardist. It's hard to know exactly when, maybe 87 it says on Wiki, but then I've also seen that there's some demos from 82 or something from when Greg and Sandy and the other guys were together. I'm not sure. But either way, a few years before actually getting their major label deal. And it was initially just, Greg and Sandy were sort of the people who formed the band. And you can see demos online as well. So there's lots of demos online that were recorded prior to the band, getting their major label deal or around about that time or up to about that time. A lot of those songs too are, songs that didn't make the album. So if you're keen to find some more Saraya stuff, you've got the two albums. There's more out there. Of course, it's demo quality, but there's some good songs on there. But so they've been around for a little while. Initially, they were actually formed as Alsace Lorraine, which if you Google that, it's like I think it's a place in France or somewhere like that. So I don't exactly know what the meaning behind the name was, but understandably, the record company suggested a name change might be a good idea. So, as a lot of bands did in the late 80s, early 90s, around that time when hair metal was popular, there were a lot of bands who just took the last name of the vocalist. And of course, this band is from New Jersey as well. So, another famous band that did that, Bon Jovi, as well. So, so Sandy Saraya is their last name. So, that then became the name of the band, Saraya. And although it's called Saraya, I think if you read interviews, old interviews by Sandy Saraya, she was she's quite keen to sort of emphasize the fact that it's not a solo album or band. It's a band. It's like it's not a solo outfit. It's a full band. Just happens to have her surname as the band name. So they signed with Polydor and they put out this album self-titled in 1989. Now they bring some other guys into the band. I don't know how long these guys have been in the band. I think probably just when the band sort of gets its deal or around that time. So they bring in Gary Taylor on bass. Now they've got Tony Bruno Ray on guitar, and they've got Chuck Bonifonte on drums. Now Tony Bruno, of course, were quite well known. He goes on to sort of do songwriting and production for some big names. Prior to joining Saraya, he'd had songwriting credits, I think, for Joan Jett, Fiona, Aldo Nova, and actually had been in Danger. And he ends up sort of being in and out of Danger over, for the next few years and did songwriting for them as well. So I'm not sure where the Bruno thing comes in because I think used to get a bit confused because there's another Bruno in Danger, Bruno Ravel. So, maybe that's why his Bruno's and, speech marks. Anyway, so he was in Danger. He comes in and he's not involved with the band too much at this point. But in the second album, it's him and Saraya doing all of the songwriting. On this one, it's a little bit of Tony, but It's actually mainly Sandy and Greg, the people who formed the band. Also, though, interesting too, they've also got a lot of the songwriting also is credited to Sandy Lindsay, who's the executive producer, and he's like quite a well-known songwriter. So he's got his name on a lot of the songs as well. So that's interesting. But he has nothing to do then with the follow-up album. I'm not really sure what an executive producer is, but anyway, the producer's Jeff Glicksman. He's quite a well-known producer. For example, probably most well known for having worked with Tony Iommi on the Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi album. But and I've got other albums as well that he's done. It's a good producer, sounds good, and this album does sound good. Now, I guess yes, call it what you want, but of course, it probably would get put into the hair metal category. But hard rock, AOR definitely. It was featured with all those bands that were coming out at the time, and 1989 is when their debut album comes out. Some might say, oh, it's just a little bit too late. If they'd come out, I've heard some people say, oh, it come out a couple of years earlier, might have done really well. People often say that too about when things come out in 1991 or a couple of years earlier. I don't know, because almost like 89 was the peak time for this type of music. But also at the same time, maybe it's a little bit overcrowded. There's just so much. I know that if you Google Saraya, the band, you're going to find the word underrated come up quite a bit. So, and fair call, maybe they are underrated, but they also have, there's also people who really like them, like Alfado's The Swell Productions, 4189. Obviously, he's a big fan. So anyway, let's get into the first album, the debut album. Just talk about some of the songs on here. There's some really good songs. I mean, the first single, Love Has Taken Its Toll, I think is a really excellent song. Now, this is interesting. This is one of the few songs that Tony Ray has a songwriting credit on, and you can, if you hear this song, you kind of get a bit of an indication of what the follow-up album is going to sound like, because on the follow-up album, it is basically Sandy and Tony with doing most of the songwriting. So it's a bit of a sign of things to come. And it does sound a little bit more like the songs on the second album. So, and yeah, Greg has no songwriting credit for this song. So it's a good song. Like I said, it was the first single. There's a music video. Not the greatest music video, but it's all right. Personally, I don't know if I would have chosen this as the first single. I think it's a good opening song to the album. I would have gone with Healing Touch. So Healing Touch is track 2 on the album. Really great hooks on this song. Basically it's pop metal, AOR, hair metal, even whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, it has lots of hit potential, but it still rocks hard. I think they had a much better music video on Beat the Bullet. So Beat the Bullet had a much better music video, and it's a similar song to Beat the Bullet. Really good. So I think Beat the Bullet was a great choice as a second single, but I think maybe Healing Touch might have been a better choice as a first single. Although I will say they're both fairly similar songs, so maybe they wanted to mix it up a little bit. Songs like Get You Ready, One Night Away, I think they're that definitely gets into that sort of hair metal category a little bit. It's fairly generic. I don't feel like those songs really stand out in a big way. You've got a kind of a semi-ballad there with Gypsy Child. I quite like it, but at the same time, it is quite repetitive. If you were to play a drinking game and have a drink every time Sandy said the word Gypsy Child, you'd be extremely drunk by the end of the song. But anyway, not a bad song. I do quite like it, but it's probably not my favorite, softer balladies type song on the album. But at the same time, it's also only a sort of a semi-ballad. So, I do like that part of it. And because I've got this as a vinyl, those 5 songs I talked about are side 1. Now, side 2 actually opens up with a song called Alsace Lorraine, which was, of course, the band's former name. And that's only just like a 50-second instrumental. So just basically, I think it's Greg just on the piano, basically. But then it leads into Running Out of Time, which is a really good rocking song. I really like this one. I think they could have done with a few more songs like this, because I mean, this is a band that gets put in the hair metal category, but it's a bit of a AOR melodic hard rock type band at times. And yeah, there's some bluesy stuff in there as well. But that bluesy stuff really starts coming in more, I think, or the heavy blues into that on that next album. But yeah, Running Out of Times is a good rocker. You can actually really hear the Greg, I guess it must be, on the Hammond organ on here. And actually, it sounds pretty good. I like that. As I talked about, Back to the Bullet, that was the second single. That's a really good song. Great choice for single. I like the music video. Yeah, it is a little bit like, why was that not a hit? I don't know. I guess now they did have a third single, but it was Timeless Love, but it's actually not on the album. So there's a song called Timeless Love from the Shocker soundtrack, and that's kind of like the ballad. And I guess, you know, most of the time bands that had big time success would have a ballad released from their album as a single. So I felt like they got let down a little bit here by not having Gypsy Child or the other ballad on this album, which I think is the best ballad, St. Christopher's Medal. I think it's a really good song. I enjoy listening to it. Yeah, feeling a little bit mellow. Whether it actually has hit potential, I don't know. But, you know, they did have Timeless Love get released, and it wasn't a hit or anything like that. But, you know, it wasn't from their album. It was from the Shocker soundtrack, and it was sort of associated with the Shocker soundtrack. So I don't think it was a music video for it or anything like that either. So they just had the two music videos from the album. There's a couple other songs. Fire to Burn has a really great riff. I get some sort of early Bon Jovi vibes on that one, actually. So yeah, I do really like that one. Drop the Bomb, yeah, it's okay. It's quite long. That one almost 6 minutes long. It probably could have been a bit shorter. And yeah, like I said, yeah, St. Christopher's Medal is probably my favorite of the sort of slow songs on the album. It did pretty well, but I think, like I said, it's really missing having that big hit ballad on there that it didn't have. And that could have really taken it to the next level. It stuck around on the charts. Supposedly it spent 39 weeks in the Billboard 200, which is quite a long album charts, which is quite a long time, but actually then only peaked at number 79. So it was never really like a big hit, but it was sort of a steady seller. So not surprisingly, they did get another album. You know, but interestingly that Greg then leaves the band. I think actually he leaves, so he's the keyboard player, but he formed the band with Sandy, and I think he leaves the band while they are sort of producing or about to start producing or writing for the next album. And I think he didn't really like the direction they were going in, but I'm not too sure. Now, sadly, Greg passed away in 2006 from pneumonia, but so that's sad. But and, you know, I don't know if he went on to do anything else in the music industry after this, but either way, they've got, of course, Tony Ray in the band, and he is, of course, more than capable songwriter. So he's now coming in and doing a lot more of the songwriting. So this is like album number 1. So now we're up to album number 2, and it's 1991, and it's When the Blackbird Sings. So that's the album number 2. And they've got Peter Collins coming in to produce this, which is interesting because he's just had massive hit with Queensryche Empire, and really good producer. So you'd think there's a good chance this album's going to sound good, which it does. And they're also on Q Prime, so they've changed management, so they're on Q Prime management. It's a big management company. A lot of the big name bands had Q Prime. Metallica, for example, were on Q Prime. So there's a lot to sort of think there's going to be some success here. Now they are down to a 4-piece now because Greg's left the band. They don't really bother replacing him as a keyboardist. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some keyboard on the album, but as the actual a band is concerned, they're now just a 4-piece. So here's the inner sleeve from When the Blackbird Sings. So you can see that they're down to a 4-piece there. There's the 4 people in the band there now. So yeah, so Greg's left the band, and they've also, their bass player has left as well. So now they've got Barry Dunaway, who was a bass player for Malmsteen. He's now come in and on bass, but still got Chuck on drums, and of course, like I said, Tony on guitar. So one thing that's interesting about this album is the songs are a lot longer, lyrically a lot more mature. It sounds really good, but it does sound different as well. So if you were expecting some of that sort of AOR melodic hard rock from the first album, that's not here so much, and it's a more mature sound. I would have to say that this album is more the type of album that sounds less dated. Like you play it now, and yeah, you could probably still pick out, oh, this came out probably, in the hair metal days, perhaps, but it hasn't dated as much as maybe some of those songs from the first album. It's interesting because I think I had, until sort of doing this episode, thought I think I like both albums about the same. But having now given them another good listen over the last couple of days, I will say that the second album is definitely my favorite. I think it's just the consistency, but there's also some really good standout songs as well. So songs are longer. There's a lot of 5 minutes, 6 minute songs, but actually that's fine. It's not a problem. Queen of Sheba, for example, so the 6 minutes long, that opens up side one on the album. Really good. Yeah, just really good song. It's a bit of an epic song, I think. Same with Bring Back the Light, over 6 minutes. Really good song. Really solid start to the album. Now, both of those songs, I wouldn't consider them as being, for having single potentials, but good, really good, solid songs. Hitching a Ride. Now, this one, I think actually it was released as a promo single, but what's weird is there's no music videos for this album at all. Now, I'm not sure if it got released and they were planning on doing music videos. I've heard rumors that there's a music video for Seducer, but no one seems to have it on, be able to have it's not online or knows anything more than other than it was a rumor. So no music videos at all. But anyway, Hitching a Ride is a promo. There's promo singles, and there were a couple of singles that were put out. But yeah, no music video. And I think, 1991, MTV still playing music videos. That's a big part of, marketing and the success of the band is having a music video. So, there's a 12-inch single as well that was put out, I think, for Seducer. And that even has a bonus track on it. So what's interesting about that one is that it's got this song called Chain Smoking on it, which is not on the album. A good B-side, or definitely worth checking out if you didn't know it existed. Interestingly enough, that's written with producer Paul Orofino. So I'm not sure when that was recorded and written, but so you get that on the 12-inch single for Seducer. So there were singles put out, but no music video, which is really unusual. Hitching a Ride. So it's got some real Cinderella vibes I felt on that one. Reminds me of that. So it starts off kind of soft, but then it gets heavy. So really good one. Track 4, When You See Me Again. That's probably my favorite song on the album. Really good hard rock song. Just starts off with this really powerful riff from Tony. Sounds really good. Powerful guitar on that one. As soon as I heard that song, I love that one. Tear Down the Walls, another solid track. Again, it's just that consistency that's here. This is not like a standout song for me, but it's a good enough song that I'm quite happy to hear it. Now, Seducer, that's the song that kicks off. Yeah, that kicks off side 2. And I've got this on vinyl, not necessarily an easy one to get on vinyl. Of course, it's 1991. But yeah, I like the way that one starts with some dialogue. So it's got some dialogue from this movie called Streetwise. And I think it might be a documentary type movie, but so it's got that dialogue, and that dialogue then comes back into the song later on as well. But then, it's got the dialogue, and then the music starts, and it's really effective. It's like an anti-drug song, and interesting enough, not the only anti-drug song on the album. Another one coming up as well. When the Blackbird Sings, that's the title track, and Lion's Den. They're okay. It's probably the first couple of songs that are kind of just in the okay category. Not probably two of my least favorite songs on the album. Now, In the Shade of the Sun, much better. Real good mid-tempo hard rock. Great hook on this one. Again, a little bit similar to when You See Me Again. I think it could have been a single. That's the kind of stuff I do enjoy Saraya doing. So yeah, enjoyed that one. It's really good. White Highway, that's a really good song as well. And this is the other sort of anti-drug song. It was actually written about someone, I think Sandy knew, that had a drug problem. Some good lyrics there. She's sort of saying, I've seen things, I've seen places you will never see until you get off the White Highway. I thought that was good lyrics. Just a really good song, actually. Love that one. The last song, New World. it's the only ballad on the album, right? So this is quite a heavy album. I think when you compare it to the first album, this is a heavier album. Just the only ballad on the album. I don't mind it. Going to finish with a softer, slower song. That's fine. So two great albums. No wonder that Saraya has a good following because they put out two excellent albums. Now, after these albums came out, it's pretty quiet, really. Not much happened. Saraya, I guess, has been busy because she's ended up, having 5 kids. It's going to keep you really busy, isn't it? She was briefly married to Brian Wheat from Tesla. And, there is a little bit of footage of her singing for some church group on YouTube, but not really anything much music from her since these 2 albums. I think she's been on a couple of tribute albums, done a song maybe on a tribute album or 2, but that's about it. They did tour when they're on this for their second album, and so they did go and tour. Interestingly enough, when they were touring, they were also they were finishing their set list with "Tie Your Mother Down," which is a Queen cover, of course, and they were also doing the song "Chainsmoking," which isn't even on their albums, but on the B sides. They were doing that. So there we go. I think that's pretty much it. That's my kind of information and my opinions on Saraya. She just turned 62. Her birthday is December the 31st. So not that long ago, last day of the year, she has a birthday, turned 62. So she's certainly not, not too old to make a comeback. I know she's got fans out there who would love it to happen. But we'll wait and see. It's been a long time. So this is 1991. So we're talking, 34 years sort of thing since the last album came out. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that. And I hope Alpha do the swell productions for 189. I hope you've enjoyed that as well. All right. If you did enjoy it, hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. And I'll catch you later. All right. See ya.